Hey everyone, my name is Mike Vaughn. I'm a writer for Geek Vibes Nation, and I'm also the author of The Ultimate Guide to Strange Cinema.
And I'm Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of Geek Vibes Nation and also a co host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast.
And welcome to a new Video Addict new release roundup. As always, we have a lot of really great titles, some very wide ranging ones. And I'm going to just kick it off with Mata Hare. Which is quite an interesting movie. Have you seen this one?
No, I considered asking for that one, but I didn't know which side of trashy it would be. So I thought I'd let you tell me.
Yeah, well, so let's just check this out. It's got a really nice slipcover. The back's the same. No reversible art. Um, so yeah, this is a movie that certainly has a reputation, and so I was really very curious about how this was actually going to be. So this is a canon produced retelling of the infamous spy Mata Hari, although I will say there is some historical debate how much of a spy she was, but that's neither here nor there. So this being a canon film, it's definitely a sleazy, over the top affair, but it has a little bit of polish and class to it. And I think this has a lot to do with Curtis Harrington being at the wheel. He was certainly kind of known for his um, really lavish, polished kind of films. Even some of his sort of B movies always had some kind of grandiose stuff to it. So I'm actually a big fan of his film. So I was pretty interested in also checking it out because of that. And yeah, the costume designs and production, is really stellar. Again, because this is canon, you get some really wonderfully over the top moments. So much so that it almost felt like a Ken Russell movie at times, which is certainly a win. Um, this was a pretty notoriously troubled production, but I actually thought it was really interesting and kind of fun. It gave me sort of a trashy novel type of vibe. So I there is a longer international cut, and this unfortunately is not that cut. This is just the trimmed like American release. If any of you are kind of curious, I did a little research, and that is not the international cut. And this also has a commentary from friend of the show, David Del Val, which is awesome. This was a lot of fun because he actually knew Curtis Harrington, and I believe he mentioned in the commentary track he was actually there when they filmed this back in. Well, this was released in '85, so maybe like when they were filming it in '84. Yeah, this is somebody perfect to talk about Harrington, talk about this film. And he also does this with Nathaniel Bell, who is another really great historian, and people that are like fans of like commentary tracks will no doubt like remember some of his past track work. Yeah, this is a really fun movie. It's kind of interesting because it has a really nice big look because they recycled sets. This is like a very Roger Corman sort of trick to get higher production value. Again, the acting is uneven. It is like the plot is a little aimless at times, but it's so fun and trashy and over the top and a lot of gratuitous sex and violence. You kind of you get into it. It's a lot
Yeah.
of fun. This restoration looks really fantastic. It doesn't say that it's a new 2K, but I mean, it really pops as far as like having a nice balanced color palette. Things don't look washed out, so you get a really good sense of like I said, the visuals are really on point. The production values are really stellar, especially for like a lower budget kind of canon film. So yeah, it's great. Again, the commentary track really does a deep dive in just how crazy and chaotic this production was, and that it's kind of a small miracle that it got made in the first place. Um, like I said, you know, not saying that Nathaniel Bell's not great, but I love how, David actually like knew these people, was on set for this movie, so it's so kind of amazing to actually have him talk about like what was actually happening behind the scenes, like in depth. So for me, like that alone is sort of worth getting this edition, like over any other ones. So yeah, pretty awesome. I liked it. Trashy fun. You can't go wrong.
No, you may have sold me on it on the features alone, so we'll see. That might be a future title I pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I might have
Yeah,
to just do like one of those like dances that she does.
absolutely. That'll bring the viewers in. That's what
Oh
we need.
yeah.
My first title, it is a brand new movie. It came out in early July, I believe, and that is American Carnage, coming out through Lionsgate. I will say that I was mostly interested in this because it has dear Jenna Ortega, who has been popping up in a lot of great horror titles and non-horror titles like the new Scream movie and the HBO Max movie The Fallout, which I'm a big fan of. So I really like Jenna Ortega, and this makes her out to be like a co-lead, which she's in the movie a lot, but she's, I guess, solidly in the ensemble along with everyone else. The real lead is this guy right here. That is Jorge Lindenberg Jr. And basically, this movie, it's a horror comedy. But whenever it kind of started out, I was like, okay, this isn't probably going to be too much in the horror. Like it might be kind of light, kind of campy. How I would describe this movie ultimately is it's kind of working in the same realm as like it's trying to aspire to be like a Jordan Peele level social commentary, but it's just not quite up to that level of quality. But it's just solid. But like also mix into like some M. Night Shyamalan, like some of his more trashier tendencies. So it's kind of like a mixture of those two. But it's still a really solid movie. And basically, what this movie is about is in this world, not too distant from our own. It's in California, and the governor institutes an executive order that all of the children of undocumented immigrants, even if they were born here legally, they are being placed under arrest until basically the governor rounds up every single illegal immigrant at once, no matter what, and all of the children are placed into custody. And it's like dealing with immigration issues and all of that stuff in this movie. But if these children want to possibly get out of their situation, if they kind of basically want to buy their freedom, they can volunteer at elderly care facilities, and like kind of work off kind of their debt to society and buy their freedom. But there's some mysterious things going on in this elderly care facility. I'll just leave it at that. So it's kind of like I don't want to reveal too many of the twists and turns, but I will just say this is a really solid movie. Like I was surprised by how good it is because it didn't get like a huge release. It kind of got like an under the radar release from, I think it's Saban maybe in early July, and it wasn't really on my radar. But I'm glad I checked it out because even though I didn't expect it to be like a real horror film, there are moments like that popped up like a little bit into the movie. I was like, oh, this is solidly a horror movie. I did not realize it was going to go this far because there's like some really gnarly like body horror, and there's like some really obvious social satire, but it's well done. I think some of like the villains are like intentionally over the top, kind of like mustache twirling, like I hate illegals type firm stance and stuff. And the governor is played by Brett Cullen, and the facility manager is played by Eric Dane from Grey's Anatomy and Euphoria fame. And it's a really solid ensemble flick of like these young teenagers trying to band together to break out of their situation. There's some good comic relief. This guy right here, I know him from Blackish. He had like a small role on Blackish, and he's very funny. Some of his stuff is kind of a little bit tasteless, but it made me laugh. So like I will say that. If you like a pretty solid social satire, kind of like a little bit of even like a little bit of science fiction thrown in there, this one really did the trick for me. Like I said, it's not like amazing. It's like kind of like a B grade Jordan Peele joint, but overall, I did think it's a really like good movie, and I think you should watch it if the like kind of premise, like if you're into that kind of like social satire horror type stuff. I think it's a really solid release.
Um, it
Go
sounds
ahead.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, and this Blu-ray release is really good too because it actually, I know you like some extra features to like flesh out some of these movies, and this does come with an audio commentary, a 3-part behind the scenes like featurette, and some deleted scenes. So it does like have a nice like selection of special features where the director and like some of his producers and screenwriter, they can kind of go into what they were trying to accomplish. And so yeah, I really was surprised by this movie, and I think like if you're a Jenna Ortega fan, like I am, it's worth seeing it for her. But even if you're just a fan of the genre in general, I think it's better than a lot of like kind of smaller horror movies out right now.
Yeah, no, that sounds I'm also very curious because I used to work at a elderly care facility,
Mm-hmm.
and it especially when you're like working like odd hours, it is very creepy. So I'm very curious like how they fold that into like a satirical horror movie. So that alone I'm pretty curious about. And I won't get on a tangent, but that is quite an interesting place to work. It's
I can
very
imagine.
surreal at times. So yeah, I have a good segue for my next one. So I'm just gonna get right into it, and that is the Ziegfeld Girl from Warner Archive. And this has some really nice bonus features. And yeah, so this I guess is sort of like a spiritual sequel to the Ziegfeld Girls, or there's like another one that was like kind of similar.
Ziegfeld Follies.
Follies, yes.
Yeah.
No, Ziegfeld something. Yeah, so this is another one of those big splashy oh my gosh, I always trip over his name, Bugsley Berkeley. Hopefully I didn't trip over that too much. Anyways, it's one of his big splashy musicals, and I'm already kind of sold from that alone. But then it has Judy Garland, Lana Turner, Eddie Lamar, and Jimmy Stewart for good measure. So yeah, it has a lot of great musical numbers, as you might expect. They're very elaborate, well choreographed. Judy Garland is always just spectacular. There is this scene that they're doing. I think the number was called Minnie from Trinidad, and they like hoist her up in the air, and I'm like part like, oh my god, like I'm so scared for her, but I'm also so like transfixed by it. So that was kind of a cool highlight for me. There also is kind of a scene where Judy's father in the movie is like pushing her to perfect this act and to hit her cues and be perfect. And it was a little eerie because, you know, if anyone knows about the real Judy Garland, you know, she was pushed incredibly hard as a child actor. So it was a little bit like kind of unsettling to watch a little bit of like art imitating life and so on. So yeah, my biggest problem with this movie is it clocks in at 2 hours and 12 minutes. And while I appreciated the fact that it really gives you time to flesh out these characters and their like romances and issues and stuff, I just felt like it didn't really need to be that long. But other than that, it was really great. It's very charming. It's another Warner Archive film that looks fantastic. Like I, it's like they always never disappoint. Like they have such a high bar. Um, and this one does again does not disappoint. Like it is incredibly crisp and clean looking. I never seen any like artifacts or any kind of scratches. Um, yeah, it's just flawless. I never can say enough good things about Warner Archive. Their stuff is always kind of on point. And yeah, as I said, there are some great features. This isn't just like dumping it out. I believe this was ported over from the previous DVD release, if I'm not mistaken. So if you're thinking you should upgrade, I think like just picture quality alone is well worth it, but then you get all the extras that were on the previous edition. And yeah, it's a pretty charming film. I know we're both big like Judy Garland fans, so this was like really fun to see this one. Had you seen this? You I know you've seen this before, right?
Yeah, I did a Judy Garland retrospective
Yeah.
back in June for her centennial, and I wrote about this film. And I kind of view this film as like almost like it's telling like the darker side of Hollywood. So it's almost like A Star Is Born, but for three
Mm.
different women, of just like showing each of them have their own separate issues with like fame and like aspiring to fame. But I mean, I also agree it's a little bit overly long, but it like you're trying to drink like jam three of these storylines together. It's like
Yeah.
it's pretty impressive what they do end up accomplishing. I did quite enjoy it as well.
Nice. Yeah, I know you know, you're also a big Judy Garland fan, so this is pretty awesome. Like I have another Judy Garland title that I'll be talking about pretty soon, but yeah, it's really it's a great time to be a fan of her films because like this year alone we just got a ton of Blu-rays with her in it. So yeah, keep them coming.
Absolutely. I'm keeping us in the past. I am going with the Anthony Mann directed Raw Deal from Classic Flicks, which will be familiar to you, I know, because I know you picked up the John Alton collection back before it went out of print, which this was also previously out of print, but they repressed more copies, so I was finally able to get that now. So this has been out for a while, but they have just repressed it. So now I am telling you, don't be like me. Don't miss out on it a second time. And this one, it's a really good film noir. It has Dennis O'Keefe stars in it. And so this is one of Anthony Mann and John Alton's collaborations, like I just mentioned, his collection. And this film, it's really like, I don't think it's their best collaboration, but I think it's a really solid film. It's a solid noir. It's about a prisoner who ends up, he through some help, he breaks out of prison with his girl, but he has to along the way he has to take on a hostage, which is kind of like this straight-laced woman who like is part of a legal team, but she's just kind of like kidnapped and like taken on their kind of journey of like trying to get to freedom basically. But along this journey it's very interesting because there's complex dynamics between the trio and like some outside figures of like the Dennis O'Keefe character's trying to like settle some scores before he's like gone for good, and also like his relationship with the two women. Some of their dynamics shift over the course of the narrative. Like um, so he's like starts out with his main girl, but then like certain things start developing between him and this straight-laced woman who's like not into the life of crime, but there's like something between them, and then like you can't really tell sometimes like who's completely good, who's completely bad. I think Anthony Mann really worked in that space really well of just like not having clear like black and white characters, and that's what I really like about this narrative, especially. There's like a lot of complexity between the dynamics. So if you like kind of some of that like moral questioning, like shifting allegiance type thing, like uncertainty, Raw Deal, it's a really solid noir, and it only clocks in at 79 minutes. So it like really keeps up the pace, and it doesn't like it never like sags anywhere along the line, and it's just a really like nice noir. And this Blu-ray release, like if you dug into this, you'll know this. Like it's like a really nice collection. It is one of their like special edition releases, which Classic Flicks does for some of their like premium titles. So you have like a pretty like nice thicker booklet with like some artwork and interviews and all that stuff. So like essays and stuff. There's that. This isn't exactly reversible cover art, but there is inner artwork that spreads out, which is nice. And there's an audio commentary. There's like a making of featurette and a portrait of actor Dennis O'Keefe, along with some trailers. And I believe this is from a 2K restoration, if I'm not mistaken. And it looks really nice. It sounds really good. Classic Flicks, they did a nice job, and I'm glad they rescued this from being out of print, because I would have been sad to have this like hole missing in my Classic Flicks collection, because I'm trying to collect them all.
Yeah, it's funny because I haven't gotten into my set yet, but I know like T-Men is on that, and I think that might be my favorite out of those. But yeah, that's great. I definitely am fans of those. I'm definitely waiting for a good time to like break into those because I've heard the restorations, as you were saying, were really great. So my next one is also, I guess, a noir, although this would probably be more like neo noir, and that would be Symphony for a Massacre. And there's the cover, and so this one's pretty good. I actually had never heard of this one. But it's definitely a really interesting film. So this is basically a very effortlessly cool heist movie from 1963 about a group of men that devise a plan to steal this money and to do this like big drug deal. And of course, it goes horribly, horribly wrong. Like I'm gonna try to like be very vague because I don't want to give away some of the twists. But this movie definitely draws a lot of inspiration from Hitchcock, and to a degree, you can also see maybe Kubrick's The Killers, which I talked about a few weeks ago. Um, and yeah, this is a very stylistic, really cool looking movie that really definitely takes a lot of inspiration from the noirs of the 40s and 50s, but adds its own kind of twist and flair to it. The story is really engaging, and there are some really tense moments because you don't quite know, like I'm trying to think how to say this without giving anything away. Like who's gonna make it, like out of the team. Like it always kind of kept me a little bit on edge, and I have to say this soundtrack is stellar. It's actually really cool because there is a featurette that's almost a half an hour long just about the score.
Oh, nice.
And it's really cool. Like, I don't know how to describe it. It's not quite like jazzy, but it's sort of in that sort of like I guess something similar to that. But it definitely has like a very like 60s sort of like hip cool kind of vibe, but that I really love. I think it fits this movie really well. There's another Kino Cohen film that oddly enough also really has a banger soundtrack. So yeah, this is really awesome. It's paced really incredible. I was always engaged. Like I said, there are a lot of really good twists and turns. The black and white photography is fantastic. This restoration looks incredible. I really like films like this that can be very moody and atmospheric, um, and not necessarily like in a horror genre. Like this is a very like noir looking film. Like they definitely it is a love letter to those 40s and 50s films, like you were just talking about with Raw Deal. So yeah, pretty good segue into that. But yeah, it's good. It's definitely worth checking out. Again, I like movies like this that always sort of keep me on not firm ground. I always felt tense because you never know, like if someone, like, again, I'm trying to be really vague, but like if somebody's gonna make it, like who's gonna, get out of this in one piece. You have to watch the movie to find out.
Yeah, that's on my radar now. So yeah, you've sold me. I think I will definitely have to check that one.
Nice.
Uh, Now is the portion of the show that I like to deem like Dillon's music corner because I love talking about music documentaries, and this week is no different. I am talking about film movement classics Deep Blues from 1992 by Robert Muji. This one, this is kind of near and dear to my heart because I live just outside of Nashville, and this takes place. It's an examination of Memphis blues music, so it's just like right down the road from me, like just a couple hours drive from me to Memphis, and this release is really great. Like I like that film movement classics, even if they don't always. They do include a booklet, but even when they don't, they usually print something inside the inner cover, like a essay or something or letter, and I really like that. Here, I'll take the disc out so you can see the other side too. You can see it's kind of like the down at the crossroads type
Oh, nice.
picture right there. So yeah, you have that, and you have this booklet that I just talked about. So yeah, there's like some nice like essays in here and artwork, like photographs, and yeah, it's really nice. Especially if you're a fan of blues music or just music documentaries in general, this one is really nice because it does what I like, where it has a nice balance of it kind of gets you into the world and tells the story like around the music and just kind of like tries to explore what is it about Memphis that like has created such like enduring and like powerful blues music while giving you like a nice taste of what that music actually is. So you actually have a lot of performances within this movie that are just like really moving and like really just like uh just so powerful, and they're like not everyone's like A+ talent or anything. You might not know who these people are, but that's sort of the thing about blues, where there's a lot of people who are just like playing like in random like bars or like out on their porch or whatever, and they're like it'll be some of the best like blues music you've ever heard, but like you have to be in the culture, and this gives you like a ticket to that culture, which like is power of film. I love it because like I'm not going down to Memphis and going into like smoky bars or anything, but through this film I'm able to like have a facsimile of that experience, which I really love. So if you're a fan of music documentaries, this one is really fun, and it's Blu-ray. I'm not exactly sure of its. I actually see it's from a new 4K restoration. I was gonna say this looks really amazing. I A lot of these older kind of documentaries, they can look kind of ragged because like the technology and like things haven't been preserved as well over the time. But this looked really nice. I was very impressed by Film Movement's restoration. It sounds really good. It has a LPCM 2.0 soundtrack. It has a commentary track from the director, along with a 23-minute behind the scenes featurette, which also includes like a lot of the like local talent and just participants in the movie. So I cannot recommend this enough if you're a fan of the genre or a fan of either the music genre or the documentary genre. I recommend it highly. Deep Blues.
Nice. Yeah, no, that sounds really interesting. I know you're definitely a documentary and music guy. I'm representing a little music here, different genre, but yeah.
Same.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, that sounds great. I don't know a lot about blues, so that sounds like actually like a pretty good, like you would say, a pretty like good tutorial there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so my next one is also a musical. So, there's that. For Me and My Gal, and it's another Judy Garland musical from Warner Archives. And here we have, again, a nice array of features. Again, most likely, I think these are ported over from the previous release. So, um, yeah, so out of the two of these, they're both great, but I will say if I had to pick one, I think I like this one just a smidge better.
Same.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this one's really interesting because this has I'll get more into this in a little bit, but it's very poignant because it has a lot of like America just entering the Second World War, and yeah, it's again like Ziegfeld Girl, it is a big splashy musical. I think the songs are a little bit catchier in this one, and again, Judy Garland, and that's awesome. And then you have Gene Kelly, and that right there is worth the price of admission for me. And yeah, the story itself isn't really that groundbreaking, but again, it has a lot of amazing performances. And there's a lot of great character development. And as I said, this is a really nice snapshot into early 40s America. Like, there's a really amazing scene that is quite moving, and that is when they are toasting Judy Garland's brother, and I'm blanking on his character name, but he's about to leave for war, and there's a really touching moment when Garland and is like having to say goodbye, but everyone in the I guess it was like the club or something, they all like get together and like sing him off, and it's like wow, it's one of those moments that like it is so effortless in just how like poignant that it kind of sets up this moment, and then we kind of find out that things don't I'll try not to spoil it, but like things don't end up very well for him. So looking back, it makes it even more like kind of heartbreaking, like almost bittersweet. But um it and I'm making it sound like a downer of a movie, and it's not. But it does have those weighty emotional moments that I think makes it a richer film experience. So for Me and My Gal, love it. Again, more Judy Garland films, please and thank you. This again looks stunning. I was like, as soon as I popped the disc in and just saw how crisp and clean and clear, I was really like stunned. I know you've seen this too, and I feel like you'd probably agree that it's just like amazing. Now, I think this one is black and white, and they do the black and white contrast so well that again, it makes everything look very polished and well like tuned. It's just yeah, it's fantastic. Like as I say, Warner Archive really brings it every time. They set such a high bar, and this is another title that if you have it on DVD, I think it is well worth upgrading. And if you're like me, you've never owned it, well, get on it. It's great.
Yeah. I have two things to say just to add real quick. One of which, you got to thank St. Judy for bringing us Gene Kelly, because before this was actually his debut on film, and like she'd been seeing him on like stage and everything. He'd been trying to break into film, but she like advocated like, I want him to be my co-star. And you see how many great films we got from Gene Kelly over the years. So like, thank you, St. Judy. Second point I want to point out, I guess this is just more of a personal thing. I like, everyone knows that Judy Garland has an amazing voice. What I never really paid attention to or like picked up on a lot, like she is actually really good at dancing as well. Whenever she like is put to the test, like she has an amazing scene. I can't remember what the name of the song is. I kind of can remember what they are wearing, but she has a scene with Gene Kelly that her dancing is like so on point. I'm just like, wow, she is a really good dancer as well as like singing her ass off. So like, I just want to like praise her for that. Like, she doesn't get enough recognition for her dancing as well because she has such an amazing voice.
Yeah, it's like she's great across the board. Like I can definitely see why she was such a huge star. She has such a charisma. I mean, Gene Kelly too. That I'm glad you shared that. I did not know that this was like his first movie, and then she kind of pushed for him. That's really awesome.
Yeah, it's really great. I really enjoyed that movie. I'm going to transition to a more not that much more modern movie, but a 1988 movie. It is one of your favorite genres, but not in the same way that it typically is. This is a TV movie, but it's not a horror movie. It's a drama, but it's a TV movie, and I recommend it. 1988's The Tenth Man with
Mm.
Anthony Hopkins, which this is like, not to like rag on TV movies or everything. We love them here, but I did not realize until I was preparing for this video that it was a TV movie, because I knew it had two aspect ratios on this Blu-ray that you could film from, which usually clues me off. I'm like, oh, this was probably a TV movie. So it has the 1.78 theatrical ratio and the television 1.33 by 1, both of which look great. But I was just like, oh, this is a TV movie? That's strange, because like, this is like a really solid movie. Like, if you would have told me like, yeah, it got some Oscar nominations, I would have been like, yeah, that tracks. So it just really surprised me. So this is a really dramatic movie. Anthony Hopkins. It's set in the World War II era. He's a wealthy French lawyer. He's under Nazi occupied France. He's just kind of like living with the Nazi occupation, but it's not really directly impacting him too much until one day he gets rounded up by them, and he's like a part of a group of like 30 men who are being held captive. And it's decided they are going to execute 10 of them, I believe, and he is one of the men who is on the list to be executed. He convinces like another kind of struggling man to take his place on the firing squad, but in exchange for doing that, he will financially take care of his family who remains, and just kind of like provide that man's family a better life, so he can have his own life, but you see where it's going. Okay. But Anthony Hopkins, who plays this man, he has to live with this kind of like guilt of what he's done. Like he has coerced another man. He's like preyed on his weakness, like his financial weakness, to send someone to death. So whenever he goes back to his home and like goes to try to take care of the man's family, he doesn't want to pose as himself. He poses as someone else, and he kind of gets in with his man's family, and helps them out, but doesn't completely reveal the truth of like how he knew like the what like he begins to like kind of form a relationship with Kristen Scott Thomas, who her the man's sister, and he doesn't reveal that how he knew her brother or all that type of stuff. So it's kind of like this layered drama of like deception, but also like kind of like coming together as like a new kind of like family unit. But then like there are complications later when a third person comes back into the picture, played by, it's either Derek Jacobi or Jacoby, I'm not exactly sure, but he comes in and kind of throws a wrench into their whole situation. And it's just kind of the drama that unfolds from like the lies that have been told and the relationships that have been formed out of lies. It's a really solid, complex drama, which it really snuck up on me because like I said, this is a really just powerful drama. And like, is it Anthony Hopkins? He doesn't really go wrong for the most part. Like even like when he's phoning it in, he's usually the most entertaining part. But like this is when he especially wasn't doing paycheck jobs. So like he is excellent in here. Kristen Scott Thomas is excellent. Like the whole cast is amazing. The cinematography is really nice. It's not overly long either. It's 99 minutes. So like you might expect like a wartime picture at this time it'd be like 2+ hours, but no, it's 99 minutes. It gets the job done. It's just a really solid TV movie. So even if you don't view it as a TV movie, it's just a solid movie. So this one, it looks really great. It sounds great. I don't, it doesn't say it's from like a new 2K scan, but the scan that they were working with looks really good. So The 10th Man, if it sounds interesting to you, do please check it out because it's a really good movie.
Nice. Well, I mean, you had me at Anthony Hopkins, but then TV movie. Love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, my next one is called The Burned Barns, and there is, I believe, no barns actually harmed in the making of this movie. Fun fact. But yeah, so this is another one of those movies that flew very under my radar, and for me, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. I really do like this sort of snow-covered backdrop for this kind of creepy, dread-filled French crime drama. But I will say that the sort of like it's a little bit of a mystery, but I don't think that that quite sticks the landing. But what I liked about it is it has a really good sort of family drama that I overall found really interesting. You know, we have a very strong, you know, matriarch at the center of this family who is fierce, and I love it. But her like in-laws and kids are kind of like afraid of her. Um, so that all is really interesting. But then there is, of course, a murder mystery at the center of this film. But I didn't find that element to be all that engaging. This definitely is what I would consider a slow burn movie, and it doesn't really kick into high gear until like the finale. Um, I will say this has a really wonderfully weird synth score that I was really floored by. Like when the movie starts, it starts with this like weird synthy kind of score, and yeah, it kind of. I said that it was like it has this really weird sort of not quite surreal feeling, but there is just this really isolated, dread-filled vibe that this movie really captures, especially with like the snowy, isolated sort of farm and this like small little like town. Um, there, so this like weird like synth score actually I think kind of heightens that. But yeah, it's an interesting movie. Again, I don't want to say too much because there is sort of I guess a twist, but I say that because it doesn't really set it up. It's this detective and he's in this small town and he kind of suspects that this family's involved with this robbery slash murder, and he's like weirdly fixated on like one of the brothers that he thinks is involved. Why he hones in and like clamps down on them specifically is kind of vague, which again is another like problem I think in the narrative, but he does. And again, I'm not going to say whether that's correct or not. They do throw a few curveballs, but again, it didn't really overall kind of work for me. Although again, it is pretty interesting. Um, I love like weird French cinema, so there's
Yeah.
that. And this is kind of an odd movie, and I say that like it's not like weird in the traditional sense, but it just has, like I said, this like overall strange kind of vibe that I thought was really kind of interesting, even though the story could have used a lot of work and polish. But yeah, overall it was all right. This 4K, however, is wow. That is fantastic. Again, not a lot of like artifacts or scratches. Everything looks really polished, and the colors are contrasted really nicely. Like there's a nice kind of vibrant warmth to the film, especially with like interiors. Like the whenever you have like outside kind of views, everything just looks so lush and vibrant and really, really great. Like it's they really did a fantastic job. Like I like how again this is a movie that's probably not going to be on everybody's radar. And while I don't think it's like a stunning film, I think that it's an interesting one, and I think that it's pretty amazing that we're getting this looking fantastic. There again is the back, but yeah, wasn't a burning success, but it was pretty fun. I do like how kind of strange and offbeat it was. And if you kind of dig those sort of movies, I would recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, that kind of reminds me, like, as you know, this year I've kind of been on a Claude Chabrol kick, and that
Mm.
kind of seems like kind of similar, at least to some of his films in his first set that I was checking out. So I'll probably seek that one out just to see how I fall on it.
Yeah.
Uh, my, I started off with the Kino Classics for my last one. The rest are also Kino Classics, so you just strap in because we love Kino over here. So my next title is Summer Heat with Lori Petty and Anthony Edwards and Bruce Abbott from Reanimator and Bad Dreams. Lori Singer is actually from Footloose, and then Anthony Edwards, people probably know most from ER, but he was also in Miracle Mile and like a lot of other great films. This takes place, I believe, 1937. So another going back to the past, but no like Nazis or anything with this one. This is just good old fashioned like Southern drama. So it's about kind of like a married couple played by Lori Petty and Anthony Edwards who are like out on this tobacco farm. It's really hot. It's isolated from the town. The Lori Petty's character, she kind of starts feeling a little lonely out there. She's kind of feels like she's not really getting the attention she deserves. She has like a baby that she has to take care of, but like with no other really human companion like around for most of the day. When a handsome stranger enters the picture, what might happen? I don't know. In the summer heat. So like this stranger comes on as like a hired hand on like the tobacco farm, and they start kind of forming this relationship. It's kind of like flirtatious at first, and then it like goes on to full blown affair. And as you know, like affairs like this and these types of movies, they don't stay hidden forever. And I don't want to spoil exactly what happens, but I will just say it kind of turns in. It has really some elements of like noir interwoven with like this southern melodrama. So it's like some like criminal stuff interwoven and kind of like deception and violence, and it works pretty well. I wouldn't say it's like the best movie I've ever seen, but it's like a solid player if you're like in that type of like southern fried noir mood. There's some like sensuality and stuff, like it's a little get you a little hot under the collar if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, it's perfectly solid. It's 80 minutes, so it, like really, like I said, doesn't, I know I say this a lot, but like I do appreciate movies that just like don't waste my time just like padding the runtime, because like if you can tell your story concisely and like just get everything you need to in like a tight package, I will probably raise your whole letter grade because you're not wasting my time. So yeah, this is a perfectly agreeable movie. It's not terrible, it's not amazing, but it's like perfectly right in the middle. It it doesn't say that this is from a new scan or anything. From what I could tell, this was like slightly older scan. I believe this is it's an MGM movie, so it's probably an older MGM master. There was some light like specks, not too many like deep scratches or anything, but like just like small big bits of specks and like some density fluctuation and just like small anomalies here and there. But overall, it's like a perfectly acceptable high definition image. It sounds pretty good. This doesn't actually have any like notable special features. It's just a theatrical trailer and a radio spot, so no commentaries or anything. But if you're in this type of mood, you'll be glad that this is on Blu-ray. So it's acceptable. Summer heat.
That sounds interesting. I really like southern drama, like Tennessee Williams-ish kind of. That seems like that's very much this.
Yeah, then you'll definitely want to pick this up.
Nice. Like yeah, like give me something like Baby Doll and I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
That is quite the cover also, by the way. It's
yeah, it's so sensual.
like
You can feel the longing between them.
um yeah, I don't I don't know how.
You're getting hot under the collar, aren't you?
Oh
I
yeah,
told
well,
you that's what this movie does.
it served its purpose. So I there's no really good transition. So this is Jurassic Park Dominion and oh yeah, all right. So let's show this off. Like first of all, nice packaging. I want to say something nice about this. So it's kind of I don't know if you can see, but it's like embossed. I really think that's cool.
Yeah.
So back. Um this is the DVD and Blu-ray version, but there's also a 4K. And there is a digital copy that's just not in there. Yeah, so I try to go with a really open mind with this movie because I actually didn't think the last one was that bad. I think the last one was Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's not great, but I mean, it's definitely better, I think, than this movie. So this might be one of the worst ones out of the new trilogy, maybe of them all. I don't know. Part three is pretty bad. Of the original part three. So this just has a lot of problems. The runtime is really bloated. I'm not like I think Chris Pratt's a very divisive kind of person these days, and I think that he's really phoning it in. Like he's just, I don't know if it's just his character is supposed to be very stoic, so he has sort of zero personality. He has zero chemistry with Jessica Chastain.
Nope. Bryce Dallas Howard. You're one of those people who
Oh,
mixes them up.
yeah. Okay, yes,
My
thank you.
my
Uh,
wife is going to be so pissed.
yeah, I don't think I'm definitely not the only one though, right? Like I
No, it's an internet thing where cannot tell them apart. But I'm like, how do you people not notice? But you're one of those people.
yeah, well anyways, they did not have chemistry together.
I agree with
And
that.
yeah, it's just gosh, it's like the plot is very cliched. It's very aimless and Locust, like I get they're like Dino Locust, but I'm like, really? I don't know. It's so frustrating, and I do love I love seeing the original cast back together, and it only just kind of reminds me how much I loved the first film and how I was at such a right age for that movie when it came out, and I was just like in utter wonder. Like it kind of makes me think of like an older generation seeing like King Kong for the first time and just being like mesmerized. Like it's one of the movies that really got me into just how magical movies could be, and of course the original. This one, it's so heartbreaking because I don't understand like why you couldn't make. I don't know. There's just so many problems that it just seems like it could be easily fixed. You know, I will say that my husband and I had fun like riffing on this, so there's that. But I will say to Universal's credit, and I because I don't want to like shit all over them, this presentation is really nice, and they didn't just dump the movie. There are some nice features. They're pretty short for the most part, so they do have a really nice 45-minute featurette that again, it didn't make me love the movie, but it did give me a little bit of something extra. So yeah, it's unfortunate. Like I will say that there was some interesting like maybe sequences, like the action sequences, but I'm trying so hard to like say something nice. I just think it's so ridiculous. Like everybody doing this to make the dinosaurs stop.
Yeah.
I was like, man, they just go all in on that.
Mhm.
And what's funny is because like Blue is the only one that like knows that signal, right? Like he was the only one trained to like have that
Yes.
hand signal. But
It's been so many years since I've seen the first Jurassic World movie. I don't
yeah,
know.
I don't know. It's like I kind of marathoned the other two before but yeah, it's a shame. But I did love seeing the original cast, so I will just end it on a positive note. They were awesome. Laura Dern is amazing. It was so cool because I got to meet Bruce Dern, her dad, who is like an absolute stone cold legend.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a good thing, and I will try to keep those actresses in mind, like the two.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I will also have one more like positive about this release. I know you said that it's already ungodly long. The extended edition, it does add a pretty cool opening sequence, which does make it a little bit more entertaining. And two, there is a short film that played in theaters that's on this that has Andre Holland in it from Moonlight. If you didn't get around to watching that, it's probably like 10 minutes or so. It's better than the movie. So like it's better the experience of watching the movie. So I recommend watching that short film at the very least. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I do really just wrapping up, I do appreciate that Universal didn't just dump this out, that they did put some
Mhm.
effort into it. And it looks great. Again, I can also link where you can get the 4K if you're so inclined. It has it that one is the 4K and Blu-ray combo. I'm reviewing the Blu-ray DVD, but yeah, And then I believe that there's also a new 4K set where you can get all of them in one shebang. I'll also link that in the description as well.
Yes. Shifting gears to I'm staying in the past. This is 1951, and it is Bright Victory with Arthur Kennedy and Peggy Dow and Julie Adams. So this one, I kind of get it confused, but I think I had heard of this one before. This one is about, it's also set in like World War II era. This is about a man played by Arthur Kennedy, which you can see him here. He is off at war, and while he is like out on patrol one day, his company gets attacked. Many of his like fellow soldiers die. He does not die, but he ends up being blinded. And the rest of the story is basically him recovering back at like an army hospital in the States, trying to basically learn how to live his life as a blind person, how to emotionally deal with it, how to physically deal with it, how to like train to like move around in the world, and kind of like how he is going to emotionally like accept the fact that he can no longer see, how he wants to contend with the people that he knew in his life, how they are unsure, how they like are to act around him. Do they want to like overly help him, or do they like want to like kind of like let him act on his own, basically? Like there's like a lot of different dynamics at play, like how to transition out of that life, from like being a sighted person to no longer having sight. And also along this journey, to add like another layer, he has also grown up as a person who is not tolerant of other races. So this isn't like a main plot point, but it's kind of like an undercurrent, like him kind of trying to understand that maybe he has the wrong idea about African Americans, and like he like he befriends like an African American unbeknownst to him, only later to find out that this whole time like the person that he is like befriended is an African American, and then kind of like he's wrestling with that and like kind of their dynamic too. It has the potential to be kind of cringy, and I don't think every single thing in this movie, like from a modern perspective, would like hold up with how like they treat him dealing with his like no longer having sight, or dealing with like other races. But for a 1950s movies trying to tackle these issues of like disabilities and racism, I think they do about as well as you could hope. They kind of fumble over some things, but then there's also some things that you're like, okay, this is kind of progressive for what they were doing at the time. Arthur Kennedy, I see that he was nominated for this performance. He does a really good job. I particularly like the relationship he develops here with, I believe that's Peggy Dow, because whenever he gets back from the war, he has a girl at home that he was like always planning on marrying, but he's such a different person after his like his whole ordeal, that he starts to like form another relationship with a girl, but he doesn't want to cheat on his original girl. So it's just like kind of that almost like unofficial love triangle, because like there's like a desire between these like this new relationships that's blooming, while knowing he has a life that he was kind of expecting to have in the past. So there's a lot of complex emotions rolled into this one. I think it's really well done for the most part. It's only 97 minutes. I won't repeat myself, but 97 minutes. And it comes from a new 2K master, which looks really nice. The black and white, like you were talking about the contrast earlier. This handles contrast really well. It's cleaned up a lot of like the artifacts and like the dirt and debris and everything. It looks really nice. And this does have a commentary from film historian Gary Girani, which is also really incisive. So Um, if you're an Oscar completist, you'll want to see this for Arthur Kennedy's performance. But if you're just like a old golden age of Hollywood like melodrama enthusiast, you'll also want to check this out. Bright Victory. I think it's a perfectly like good drama. Like it's really good.
Nice. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that sounds really interesting. I definitely like I love Julie Adams. I know you said she was in this.
Mhm.
And like we stand her here. So she's another person that I got to meet a couple times, and she was just such a delight. It's kind of cool because I know like this year there's been a few movies, new releases with her, or a new home video releases, anyways, with her in it. I saved my favorite for last, and that is the Black Phone from Universal. And also, you will see it has some of my favorite features, including a commentary track, which is really awesome. So here is the slipcover. Again, I don't know if you can see it, but this is kind of embossed, which I think is cool. And there's the inside. Now, I think I'm correct in saying that this does not have a 4K
Correct.
presently. Yes. Yeah, wow, I really love this. I know the hype train was really like screaming positivity about this movie, and I'm always a little bit wary because I'm like, I don't know, some people tend to be a little hyperbolic, but wow, this is great. So this is based on a short story of the same name from Joe Hill. That's Stephen King's son. I feel like everybody kind of knows that, but I feel like it's worth repeating. So yeah, I love how this is a very creepy film, but it also almost feels like an anti-nostalgia kind of work of art. Like it takes sort of that like Stranger Things, but it goes the 180. It does something similar to another really fantastic movie called Summer of '84.
Yeah.
I had to think for a second because there's a Summer of '85 too.
Very different.
Yeah, very different. But yeah, so if you kind of like that movie, you'll probably really like The Black Phone. This is directed by the guy who did Sinister, Scott Derrickson, and I really like how because I was a little bit nervous because I didn't really love Sinister. Like I thought it was also very creepy, but then it like takes a supernatural in a way that's a little bit hokey for my taste. But this actually fixes that, and it gives you a more grounded, but still very eerie, like almost documentary like feel. I kind of love how he did that with Sinister as well, where it feels almost like you're watching again a documentary, like a true crime documentary. Yeah, it's amazing. This is kind of hard to talk about without spoilers, but I would just say that I love how the movie meticulously lays the groundwork for the finale, and everything feels like the setups and the payoffs are just really well kind of worked out. I think that's a vague way to say what I'm trying to say, but people have seen it will know what I'm talking about. But anyways, my one minor complaint with this movie, I thought the sister character maybe could have been developed a little bit more. Um, like she has special, I don't know if this is giving anything away because I didn't watch the trailer, but like she has special abilities that apparently her mother also had. I don't necessarily need all of that spoon fed to me. Like I appreciate the fact that it kind of lets me use my imagination a little bit with that, but I don't know, like her and how she helps wrap the film up sort of felt a little bit, I don't know, like could have been a little bit more polished. But anyways, it's great. I do love how it feels very much like it doesn't present this time period in a way that is like rosy and happy and everybody, got along. It really is sort of the anti Stranger Things when it comes to that. And it very much plays in with Stephen King and kind of I see this as sort of an extension of what he was doing in stuff like It and Stand By Me, which I guess was a short story called The Body. So yeah, I really liked it. Holy crap, it was good. It looks great. Again, this has a really interesting visual flair that I wasn't expecting, but I really appreciate it. So yeah, it's great. Thank you, Universal, for actually doing some really cool features. The commentary track was fire. I loved it. This is well worth picking up. I know I had a few friends say that they're going to hold out for a 4K edition. I have not heard anything news-wise about that, just to be clear, but I still think it's worth picking up. And hopefully we do get a 4K, but yeah, this is like such a stellar release, a great movie, and I'm happy that they didn't just dump it out bare bones. So
Absolutely. I was so waiting for you to say, my one problem with the movie, I was like, here it comes, but you didn't talk about Ethan Hawke. So
no, and you know what? I know I'm very notorious for not really being into the Hawkman, but I will say he's good in this. He doesn't have a lot of screen time, but the like he's really good at maybe projecting without not necessarily saying a lot, which I appreciated. Um, I will say that the mask was holy crap, terrifying and amazing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Tom Savini designed and sculpted that.
if I remember correctly from the special features, yes, but also, audience, correct us if we're wrong.
Yeah, it's yeah, that in and of itself is just great. I mean, it's so weird to say this, but I mean, the mask is as much a character as Hawk's portrayal of the grabber. And yeah, it's great. There's a little bit of comic relief that I didn't know if it completely worked, but overall, fantastic.
Awesome. Closing out our releases, I believe. This is my final release. It is from 1943, and it is So Proudly We Hail, which has a lot of great actresses. You have Claudette Colbert, you have Paulette Goddard, and Veronica Lake, just to name a few. So this, I was very excited about this because there are a lot of war pictures from this time, especially going into like World War II and dealing with all those conflicts. But so many of those, like 98, 99% of those are from like a more male perspective. And I was interested to see like how it was for the women in the war, and seeing that done by a studio system at this time, I wanted to see what that looked like. And is it handled with like the most nuance, like that I would maybe want from a modern perspective? No, but for this time, I think it's good to show what they were like, the circumstances were for like these like war nurses at this time, and like how they fit on these bases, like what kind of danger they were in, how like their interactions with the soldiers and like the enemies is, it's all a lot to cover. And like it, I would say this movie is pretty long. It's like 2 hours and 6 minutes long. So there are some moments that drag here and there. But what really sells this, especially, are the performances from all of the main actresses. They do a fantastic job. Like Claudette Colbert, you would expect nothing less. She is the lead of this movie, and she's like kind of like the matriarch of like all of the other nurses, even though she is not that much older than them. She kind of like is their leader and like kind of make sure everyone is like doing everything that they're supposed to be doing. There are moments of levity, like they're like the Paulette Goddard character. She has like a thing where she always like make sure she sleeps in like a black nightgown because it makes her feel like comforted and like she is still human basically, and like gives herself like a brief moment of humanity to feel like there is something beyond the war and stuff, and that kind of like plays out in humorous ways occasionally. But it's also like, if you like stop to think about it, it's like kind of heartbreaking to just know like how much a person's humanity is stripped away in these environments, like in this wartime environment where you just kind of feel nothing sometimes. So there are issues like this that are like tackled in this movie that I think are handled really well. And I will say there are actually some like really tragic things and surprising things that happen in this movie that I was not expecting for like something that uh is positioned as probably more uplifting, especially like in 1943 when like America is trying to rally people for these efforts and like trying to make morale as high as possible. There are some really heartbreaking things in this movie. I was like, oh, that they really went for this. So it's a really good movie. It comes from a new 2K master, which looks really nice. It's been cleaned up really well. It sounds good. It has an audio commentary from film historian Julie Kurgo, which is really illuminating. So if this sounds interesting to you at all, so proudly we hail Kino Classics is putting this out soon. It's a really solid look at like a perspective of the war that we don't normally get. So it's worth checking out for that alone.
Nice. Yeah, that's another one that sounds really interesting. I love all those actors. And yeah, it's always interesting to see, a wartime film, but as you say, from maybe a different perspective than what we normally do. So, yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that was a lot of really cool, again, very wide-ranging titles. And as always, I'll close out by just asking that if you enjoy this content, just definitely consider just giving it a like, a comment, subscribe, because we always are coming out with some really great content weekly. So you don't want to miss that. And as always, just thanks for hanging out with us.